today years old when I found out that we don't use 10% of our brain.
What are you talking about? You're
Oh,
saying like the old adage of like, oh, human beings only use 10% of their brain?
yeah. It's been thrown out there for so long. It's just become like we all think that we're so underdeveloped that we only use like a small 10% part of our brain.
Yeah,
And
if we could ever evolve to using more of our brain, we'd be amazing, right?
if
Oh.
we used all of our brain, we'd be like the supercomputer. Anyway. So the day I heard for the first time that that myth has been debunked, and it's been debunked for a long time,
We
but
need we need MythBusters on this one.
yeah, that's right, man. So, but what's kind of cool is you learn, or I learned today, is that when this phrase came about, is because scientists were actually doing studies on people who had traumatic brain injuries, and what they realized, and this is like many years back, right? So, what they realized is they could only observe 10% of what they were doing, and so that got misconstrued as in the scientific community that we only use 10% of our brain. So actually, with the neuro scans and everything they do, they said no. We said we actually use all of our brain all the time, and even while we're sleeping, there's still parts of our brain they said never shut off because guess what? If it did, you wouldn't be breathing.
That's
Right.
correct. Yeah.
So, so I
So
thought that was
mis-
pretty cool.
apparently you're using a lot more than 10% because you're using words I've never heard before. Misconstrued. That was cool.
Yes,
Let's
Yeah.
get
that was cool. Hey, I use above and beyond 10%. Okay, I,
English
I might be
plus.
I might be hitting 25% there, so I'm on the upper echelon, right? So anyway.
I actually remember the first time I ever heard someone say that. It came out of the mouth of one of my teachers.
Hmm.
And it just, even then, as young as I was, it hit me like that is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. And I have a question, or I have a thought.
Yeah, and I'm sure the teacher, when she sees you raise your hand, was like, "Oh, what?
Absolutely,
What?"
absolutely.
What did you have
I,
deodorant on that day?
I was just man, that was before I even needed deodorant. Man, I
Okay,
was
okay.
young.
Whew.
Yeah.
'Cause that could have been rough.
So I yeah, I just simply asked her. I don't remember exactly what I said, but it was something along the lines of, okay, well, how much of yours can we remove? You know, if you're okay with only 10% being used, how much of yours can we remove? And she's like, oh no, I mean I kind of need it all. What do you need it? Don't make sense. Either you need it or you don't. Either it's being used or it's not.
It's a backup plan. You never know.
Yeah.
So what this is a case of trust the science, right? How many times have we
Right.
heard that before? Oh, science has it down. Science has the answers. And so, you're like, okay, I'm going to remember exactly what this science study told me, and I'm going to treat that as fact, like all these other theories that are out there. And what makes it even more interesting, of course, is, you're like, okay, I'm going to trust the science. But then they also turn around and say, hey, what kind of person are you? Are you left brain or right brain? That
Mm,
already is 50%. So even if
yeah.
somehow magically you're only using half, which is not true, then you'd still at least be at 50. Where the 10, that's like just enough to keep you breathing and your blood pumping, and that's it. You're out of here.
Right.
Well, I mean, think about this. I mean, how something gets said long enough and it becomes true.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
guarantee you, we went out on the street today and we did a poll and we asked everyone out there, "Hey, by the way, what is it said that how much of our brain that we use?" And I'm guarantee you, 100% would say, "Oh, it's only 10%,"
Oh yeah,
and
they've made
not even
movies
think
about it.
twice about it,
They've
huh?
made movies about it. Y'all remember that movie that was I mean it's probably been I don't even probably 10, 20 years now. I don't even know when it came out, but there was a movie called Limitless
Hmm.
where the dude
Yeah,
took this drug or whatever and it supposedly expanded his brain usage, so he went from 10 to 100% of brain usage.
yep, yeah.
Yeah.
Got a
Well,
whole movie made on a lie.
Yeah.
Well, I think the other part of it is what it allows for a lot of this modern new age movement stuff of like you need to be enlightened, you need to have your brain expanded, you need to
And
open
evolution.
yourself right, you need to be
Yeah,
able to open yourself up to receive more. Well, the problem with that is, when you open yourself up, quote unquote, what are you opening up to? And then
Right.
right, the brain is the brain. You don't get any more, pink meat that's up there, whatever it is. There's
I thought it was
grooves and
gray matter.
I think it's gray after it comes out. I don't know.
Okay.
But whatever it is up there, you don't get any more of it. Your head doesn't get any bigger. You can just increase
Well,
its
I beg to
functionality.
differ.
You're not gonna get a double head. You're gonna keep the same.
That's some gray matter right there, bro.
Yeah, it is, son. That ain't
but
no lie.
But yeah, so this whole process of like opening your mind and like, being ready to get past your 10%, it's like it's almost like fashionable. Well, I've allowed myself to learn so much more. Well, I've been enlightened to the
Mm,
universe. I can do this, I can do that. So it actually is probably a ploy to force people to think you're not good enough. You don't have everything you need. You need
Hmm.
to go seek more. Well, if you don't seek it from religion, you don't seek it from school, where are you going to go? Into the new age stuff where they
mm.
tell you this is the esoteric knowledge, this is the secret knowledge. So your 10% makes you a normal human that buys a house and a car and has a dog. But the 90 extra percent, then you can learn about all the other stuff, how crystals work and aliens and how to mix stuff and do. And then what do you start to find out? You're getting the same knowledge that was given back in the days of Noah. You're going down that road. And instead of just saying, hey, this is the natural order of things, my brain
Yep.
works because I'm a full functioning human. And that's the end of the story. I don't need to open my mind to the universe.
Yeah, well,
Right.
it kind of lends me to what you're saying, Jonathan, about them wanting to put a chip inside your brain so that you become literally a super computer. And there is a group of people out there, and I saw this like probably 15, 20 years ago, where these scientific guys got together and said that they wanted to become as a god. And so
Oh
their
yeah.
process of becoming a god is to increase the knowledge that you can receive. And I'm like, you just said it a minute ago. You talked about people wanting to open themselves up to things.
Mm-hmm.
You may want to be careful about what you open your mind up to because once
Yeah.
it gets in there, it may not come back out.
Well,
So,
and
but
wasn't that the original problem? Was them trying to gain knowledge, the knowledge of good and evil? Wasn't that the
yep,
original ploy of the enemy? Was, hey,
yep,
you're not good enough the way you were created. You need more. You need
you
the
need
extra.
more.
Right? Like, at what point is it too much? At what point is like, hey,
Well,
just be
well,
content.
remember what the enemy says. Says the day that this increases in you, you will become as God.
Mm.
So he's telling you, hey, you're gonna become a God yourself with all this extra knowledge. But all it did was get them kicked out of where they were, and here we are today.
I said, I don't feel like a god, that's for
Yeah.
sure.
No, not at all. So speaking of 10%, I heard they're supposed to be voting on the new pope,
Is that
and
why the buildings are so big and so grandiose, covered in gold, is all the 10% tithes and
right. So I think we may have 10% smoke coming out right now out of the stacks, but so yeah. So right now they're in the voting process. There is still black smoke coming out of the stack. They have not come to a complete agreement yet of who's going to be the new pope. So we'll see. We'll see.
so what's the
Who
black
we'll see who emerges from the smoke when it's all said and done.
right? What does the black smoke represent?
What do you mean?
Well, like so you said there was black smoke that came out of the little pipe thing. So what is that?
So the black smoke just means they haven't come to a complete agreement or about who they're voting for.
So is
So
it
as
like
long as there's
evil
black,
incense or something?
yeah, I don't, I, I don't know what they're stoking that fire with, but anyway, they yeah, as long as it's black smoke, they're basically telling everybody who can see it visibly that hey, we haven't made a decision yet, and when the smoke turns white, apparently that's when the Pope's coming forward, so or the new Pope's voted on. So
So
yeah,
what was it? I know they were talking about they had some options with was it Peter the Roman, and then we had the one guy who said he was the magic pope that showed up out of nowhere now and he's taking over everything. So I'm guessing these guys aren't voting on either of those situations, or are they still trying
uh,
to fulfill that book prophecy?
right.
Because I
I
mean,
have
maybe
no,
that.
hey, here's the deal. So we're told that the prophecy was this the one who just passed away?
Mhm.
Was he supposed to be the last pope, or are they saying after him is the last pope?
Well, it's a moving goalpost, so you got to keep changing it
Right.
to fit the current narrative.
Well, it just keeps reminding me of 88 Reasons in 1988 why Jesus Christ was coming back in 1988. And when he
Hmm.
didn't, they just moved it over to 89 to 90 to 91. It kept going. So I think the guy, I forgot the name of the guy who was pushing it. He kind of course, you're going to fizzle out at some point because everybody's going to be like, really, dude? We're like 10 years into this. I mean, how much more are we going to push this? Okay.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. They eventually just had to say, "All right, well, we didn't get it right." So that's it makes me wonder because like you said, these guys are all. I mean, it's called what they call the conclave, and so it's all the cardinals and like the specially elected people under the age of what was it, 80 or something like that.
80, yeah.
So I guess you have to be of able mind and be able to like live long enough to see the Pope through his whole life. I don't understand the meaning behind that, but I guess just to be age appropriate. So they all get together and they're literally not allowed to leave until they're done.
Yep.
And they're in the what is it, the Sistine Chapel? I mean, I've actually been there, which is interesting because it's not as big as you think it is. But yeah, it's the one where they got paintings all over the wall and the ceiling and everything. So I mean, I guess if you're going to be stuck anywhere, they're in like a giant museum essentially.
So let me give you a little bit of facts here. I've got some of my notes on this. It says, in a matter of days, so which is now, it says 133 men. It says, in the College of Cardinals are preparing to elect Pope Francis' successor in a secretive election known as the conclave, like you were just saying, which is set to begin May 7th. It says, although some historical conclaves have taken as long, I didn't know this, taken as long as 3 years.
Yep.
I was like, what? It says most elections in modern church history have only lasted a few days. Francis, for example, was chosen just after 3 rounds of voting.
Yeah, so it can go quick or you can be there all day.
Okay. I have a question.
Nope.
I know y'all had a great conversation there, but my brain could not consume any of what y'all were just saying. Help me out because I'm stuck on what you said from the very beginning. I missed that completely. Speaking of 10%, and then you started talking about the Pope.
Oh, well,
What's
let
the
me
connection to
clarify.
that?
I'm hoping they're using
didn't
more than
get that.
10%, I'm hoping they're using more than 10% of their brain while they're voting. So as a collective group, maybe they'll get at least 100% or 133% out of the collective group while voting for the new Pope.
I guess I'm sitting over here on about 4.5 because I did not get that. My bad.
Well, I'm glad you asked. See, this is, you know what? I bet your teacher loved you in class, Kyle. I bet you just helped bring out the best in her every
Absolutely
time
not.
you showed up.
Absolutely
You wonder
not.
why, you know.
Well, here's the deal. They're looking for 10% of your money. They're preaching out only 10% of the Bible. And like Joe said, they're probably only using 10% of their brain.
Yeah.
So you know what? There might be some truth to this.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
So I'm glad we can help each other. I'm glad between the three of us, we had at least 30% working on this one. Okay.
There you go.
So Joe, what you're saying there is that they're essentially stuck. Like they're locked in to this situation. They can't
they
leave.
can't leave. Yeah, can't leave, can't have any outside contact. You can't, it's like literally when the door is shut, that's it. It's like you guys got to make it happen.
Right.
So
And do they still use the guards from was like the Netherlands? Like their secret guard force?
they probably got some, I'm sure they got some Nephilim that are still kicking around that they probably put outside the door to watch over things. So yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, we're talking about being locked up. So I was talking recently at work, and they were saying that like how what's going on right now with the administration is, they were putting people in prison over in what is it, El Salvador, and then down in Guantanamo Bay. So if you guys haven't heard, new on the table, they're trying to reopen Alcatraz, the super famous prison out in the middle of the water. So
Ball rock.
yeah, literally. So they're not going to just be
Really?
locked in. They're trying to do the vote for the Pope. These people are going to be locked in, surrounded by water.
I thought that place was condemned or something.
That's what I heard. I thought it was like a
don't they
museum
have
now.
like most of the stuff's not even. I mean, all the tech. I mean, they would have to completely rebuild the thing. Like everything's got like lead paint and all this other stuff in there. And
Hey, that's good for you, man.
let's see,
So
like
that's another. Hey, look, that's another one of those myths, Kyle. Lead's totally in again, man.
right. And what else? The what's the horrible stuff in the
Asbestos.
Asbestos.
That's the thing. Yeah,
Or asbestos.
As worstus.
That's it.
Well, when you go there, you got to do as best as you can and be led by the Spirit. So I think, ultimately
Wow.
they're going to be fine. And then maybe they'll get broken out like Paul. We'll see.
So
I mean, there was a movie about that.
Listen, I'm glad you brought that up because I'm holding my fingers here straight off the rotors.
Ooh.
Is the Alcatraz prison reopening. It says that U.S. President Donald Trump said on Sunday he was directing the Federal Bureau of Prisons to rebuild and reopen the infamous Alcatraz prison in the San Francisco Bay to house America's most ruthless and violent offenders. It says, rebuild and open Alcatraz. That's what he said, quote
Wow.
unquote. He says, he posted on the True Social platform, when we were a more serious nation in times past, we did not hesitate to lock up the most dangerous criminals and keep them far away from everyone they could harm. The federal prison of Alcatraz housed the notorious U.S. criminals such as Al Capone before it closed in 1963. It is now one of San Francisco's most popular tourist destinations. It says, and I quote from President Trump, today I am directing the Bureau of Prisons together with Department of Justice, FBI, and Homeland Security to reopen, substantially enlarge, and rebuild Alcatraz.
Enlarge.
Trump wrote.
It's on
He
an
wants
island.
Yeah,
he,
there's only so
look,
much room,
look,
bro.
look. I think he's going up. He's gonna make he's
That makes
making
sense.
like Trump Towers out
Yeah,
of
Trump
Alcatraz.
Tower.
But it says he wants to substantially enlarge and rebuild Alcatraz. So, but here's the funny part. Okay, let me get this part. I'm gonna in the story. So we got Nancy Pelosi, who doesn't really make a whole lot of headlines lately. I guess I haven't really heard a lot from her.
I wonder who he has in mind to put in that place.
Oh well, I think. All right, let me read this to you here.
How can we number them?
Oh boy! All right, here we go. It says Nancy Pelosi, former House Speaker and Democratic lawmaker from California. There we go, California, says downplayed the Republican president's plan. So she downplayed, like, I'm like, really? Says Alcatraz closed as a federal penitentiary more than 60 years ago. It is now a very, very popular national park. I didn't know it's considered a national park. I guess so. And she said that it is a major tourist attraction and that the president's proposal is not a serious one. It says what she said on the post on the X. I was like, of all the people, she's like, oh no, he's just kidding. I'm like going, I think you're a little bit nervous, is what I'm thinking. You and some of your homies out there like going, he wants to do what?
Well, are there any more? I mean, I know there's state penitentiaries, but are they actual state penitentiaries, or are all prisons now privately owned?
That's a good question. I don't know.
I know a bunch of them have gone that way. I don't know if every single one, but yeah, for the most part, they're like contracted out and stuff.
Yeah, like I don't know of any. I mean, I guess we could do a quick little search on that, but I don't know of any penitentiaries that aren't privately owned anymore. And that maybe that kind of speaks a little bit to how he's trying to get things back the way they were, kind of thing. Get out of the corporate side of government, you know. So,
right. Well,
I don't know.
If you look at it, prisons are a huge money making. I don't want to say a scheme, but a huge money making business. That's why he was even talking about sending people overseas and using other means and resources, because you send somebody to prison, you're essentially paying for their food, their water, their health, their security, their TV time, their commissary, all this stuff. They're essentially now 100% on government funds. So you say, oh, because you've done wrong, here's your benefit for the rest of your life. If you're there for the rest of your life, of course. Even if you're there temporarily, your clothes, everything. So yeah, when you're talking about contracted out, of course, the government loves to pay the cheapest contract. They never overspend on any of their government contracts ever. But so making it federal, then you have more control over. You're saying, hey, this is the wages, these are the conditions, these are going to be the expectations. And I find it ironic that this Alcatraz is in California, right, where you more liberal, less government. Well, I don't know, maybe more government. It's weird over there.
It's weird.
But to me, my opinion. But you got this island of like, hey, you know what? We're just going to go ahead and build this thing out. And they said the reason why they like this island is it's supposedly, other than the movie that came out, you can't escape. Right? You're literally, the swim is too long. Everything about it is not to escape. It makes you just stay there. Right. So I wonder, like you said, like Kyle was bringing up, Yeah, I think he has a list of people he's already considering, and there's been a lot of stuff coming out lately with different files coming out, different people looking into different things.
Yeah.
And those lists are getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and some of it had to do with flights to other islands. And so I just find it to be very interesting that he's like, you know what, prison. Now there's a little bit of a scary thought behind that. You're like, well, don't take this too far. It's good as long as you're taking care of the people who need to be in prison, but don't let this get to be where it's like anybody who disagrees with anything, straight to jail, straight to jail, straight to jail, everything straight to jail.
Straight to jail.
Do not pass go. Do not collect $200.
Right.
Jaywalking straight to jail.
So, Kyle, let me answer your question. I did a little quick search. It says yes, all 50 U.S. states. Now, this won't. What I'm getting ready to say won't necessarily answer it right off the rip, but just hear me out. It says yes, all 50 U.S. states still operate state prisons. The term penitentiary is more of a historical term, and the facilities are generally referred to as state prisons or correctional facilities. While some facilities have been repurposed or closed, the basic function of housing individuals sentenced by the state courts remains. Then it goes down to further say, uh,
Now, Joe, do you know this
see.
from personal experience?
No, sir.
Okay, just
You will
making
not
sure.
find any mugshots of me out there on the web at all. I had a really
Oh,
good lawyer. But anyway,
I can do a screen clip pretty easy.
it says, yeah.
Hey, that's pretty
It
good nowadays.
says, it says, yeah, AI have us all thrown in jail. Anyway, it says all 50 U.S. states maintain their own prison systems for housing convicted individuals.
Hmm.
So when I
Okay.
was looking up to see if there's any, like state or own penitentiaries. This is all it gave me so far on it. But I guess it's up to each individual state how they're going to operate it. I guess who's going to be in charge of it or own it. So yes, things
Hmm.
have changed, and
For sure.
unfortunately, it's become a business.
Yeah.
I think
Oh, yeah.
statistically, aren't we the or we're the number one nation for having as most people in prison or something like that?
Yeah. Well, because a lot of
And
other
they,
countries they have substantially stricter rules and laws. So yeah, there's going to be parts where their judicial systems don't really dig into the weeds on every little detail. But you get found with drugs, dead. You start messing with kids, dead. You start doing like you have a murder or whatever, they just have death penalty. They don't or they lock you away and they send you to like some obscure place where you never come back. And they're like, and it's like a self-police prison. They're like, hey, figure it out. We got snipers. Don't ever leave.
yeah,
So it's like one of those things where in our American system we incarcerate more people than anywhere, but it's because our rules are slightly lax. Where you're like you got third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh try. You can keep getting out on bail and all these other situations. So it's almost like if you're gonna go down that road, either reform or like what are we doing? Are these systems actually working? I guess that's where they were trying to find the statistics behind it. Of okay, yes, we're trying to rehabilitate people to get them back into society, but they seem to be repeat offenders more often than not. So they're worried about that. You at one time people make mistakes, sure. 10 times in a row you're selling drugs, the same drug. Hey, you know what? Maybe it's time for you to like not come back for a little while or ever.
Right.
You haven't learned anything. You've only gotten worse and putting more people in danger.
So I had to do a little searching of my own just to kind of jump in on this private prison type thing.
Y'all are cheating.
Buddy, this is big business, right?
Oh
yeah, it
yeah.
So
is.
just to kind of give you an idea. So prisons are built to keep people in, right?
For the most
That's
part,
the idea.
That's kind of how it works.
except for
And,
Prison Break.
and you can have substantially more prisoners than you have guards because it does it. If the facility's built to keep you in, very few people are needed to keep everybody in check, right?
That's
Like
correct.
generally, you're going to have one guard per cell block, which could be, a lot of people, 100 plus people, right? So it's not like you're having that much staff. And even when it comes to things like, cooking and all that stuff, the prisoners do all that work. When it comes to the cleaning, the prisoners do all that. So really your guards and your staff that you have for that is really all you have. So there's not a ton of money that's needed to pay those people, those individuals. All right. To give you an idea as to how big a business this is, The average cost to house a prisoner in the United States has a huge variation, starting from around 23,000 in Arkansas to $307,000 plus in Massachusetts. The average of 60, almost right at 65,000 per prisoner per year. 65,000.
That's a good salary to make.
That's insane.
Right.
So
Yep.
if you had 100 staff members at a prison, 100 prisoners, the funds from that pays for all of their salary. Right? Take, I don't know, 25 more prisoners, and that's going to pay for all the bills, the light bills, the plumbing bills, all that stuff. Everybody else is pure profit for that private facility. Let's go open a prison, bro. That's like a hotel. Hotel, you're guaranteed people staying every night.
Yeah, I mean, but you got to think. I mean, I'm not trying to vouch for the money because that's ridiculous. We should never be paying that much. But we also got to think of like they're paying off the debt for like the multi-million or billion-dollar facility to build all that stuff where they have to pay that down. They're bringing in programs. They're bringing in like counselors. They're bringing in there's a lot of stuff that comes into it. It's not just literally people in a square.
I would yeah.
Yeah.
I would almost say though, what would be very interesting about it, Jonathan, is this. So even if it is a private owned place, I'd almost bet the bank that it is funded by the taxpayers' money. Just like all these NFL teams out there, when they build these gigantic facilities for the football team, that's all taxpayer money. That's not coming out of the owner's money.
Right.
So it wouldn't surprise me at all if all these prisons were actually built on the taxpayers' money and then they're just making bank. Here's the deal. Like I was looking it up too, Kyle, so I'm glad you brought that up. So I did find this. It says more than half of states use private prisons, and this is from 2022. It says, but they house less than 10% of all inmates nationwide. As of 2022, 28 states use privately run prisons along with or instead of local jails and state-run facilities. That same year, 7.4% of prisoners were in a private facility. And then as I look down in my search, it was saying the expenditure for each prisoner, and this is going to give you 4 states here. California was $128,000 a year. Maine was $117,000. Rhode Island was $117,000. New York was $116,000. And here's the thing: it doesn't matter if you're in prison for not paying child support or you murder somebody. You could be the roughest of the roughest, the meanest of the meanest. The people that President Trump wants to throw away in prison in Alcatraz, but you're going to pay the same. And that part right there makes me suspect because I think there's a lot of people in prison that don't need to be in prison. I don't understand how you throw a man in prison for not paying child support. How's he supposed to pay it if he's in prison?
Well,
We care so much about. Oh, I know.
Technically, you're not supposed to in the United States. Technically, no one is supposed to be jailed for debt.
Mm-hmm.
But it happens.
That's real. Oh, every day.
Yeah. So that makes me wonder, make me suspect though, to the fact that I think there's a lot of offenses. There's a lot of, hey, so and so didn't pay his traffic fines or whatever, gets thrown in jail for 30 days, 40 days. They're still making money, whether it's not a whole year or not. It just makes me wonder if that's part of the system sometimes, just to get people in there to make bank. It's like, hey, I know you're a couple months behind on your child support. We're going to throw you in jail for the next 3 months. And the kids that you tell me so much that you care about that I can't work at all to help support. What are you doing?
Yeah, and
Now
the debt's going to continue to stack up.
the debt continue goes up the whole time you're in there. Now I'm losing my job that I may have had.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's just
That's terrible.
Yeah, it is.
I don't know, man. It's it cost more by a lot. Even though they have less, it cost more to keep individuals in prison than it would for the average individual to survive in any given situation. Like, all right, Jonathan, you're the money guy.
Sometimes.
Just don't call him Judas.
What would you say? What would you say is a nice round figure to put up for a family of 4 to live off of per day in the area you're in?
I don't know that there's so many variables in that, like your house, your car,
I understand that.
medical.
I figured you've done a bunch of budgets and stuff like that. So
No, not on a per day basis. Let's see.
Well, do a yearly one.
no. We need at least
No?
monthly. So give me
Monthly?
something
Okay.
smaller. Let's figure this. Come on, let's do it real quick. I'm just curious.
Let's
Family of
say
4.
an average family of 4, maybe 4 or 5,000 a month to be safe, and that's getting everything and covering everything, all your bills, budget, food.
Which today isn't a whole lot, unfortunately, anymore.
4 or 5,000 a month.
Yeah, why not? I'm shooting high.
I would say extremely high. All right, let's do the Googles.
Well, $100, $150
Well,
a day.
You look at the cost of rent in our area, right, Jonathan?
Right.
I mean, just renting like not even the nicest place is going to run you $1,500 a month just in rent.
Exactly. And we don't for you guys listening, we don't live anywhere expensive.
No. No.
It's pretty good down here.
Yeah.
All right.
And then with the cost of groceries going up, I mean, just renting groceries alone per month in my budget here, I'm looking at, I'm just writing some numbers down.
I
They're
don't
already
think
at
that's gonna be a fair
$2,100.
number. I don't think that's going to be a fair number to use.
What's that?
His grocery bill. I mean, for Pete's sake, I mean, not only do you have a large family staying there, you kind of a big guy.
Yeah,
Your son's a
man.
big guy. You know what I mean?
Hey, look, I'm
you
in the
have
same
people
frame
over
as they just
all the
get.
time.
So everybody knows I'm in the same frame as them, but look how much more I fill up. That's I'm sitting on the back side of the room right now. I'm just kidding.
Nah,
I'm
you
up against the wall, man.
You got your
have a
camera punched
lot
in a little bit.
You have a lot of people over every week too. So this is crazy to me because I don't see how this is even possible. I know that we don't spend anywhere near this, so I don't see how this is even possible. But supposedly, the average cost of living per day for a family of 4 in the U.S. is roughly $300 to $350.
Mhm.
I really don't see how that's possible. There is absolutely no way that we spend anywhere near that to exist on a daily basis.
You talking about 300 per day?
Yeah.
So let's see, that's $110,000 a year. So the reason why I think you can see those numbers is because all the money that you spend isn't quite accounted for. When you really stop to break down how much your job is paying for in benefits, how much government benefits you're getting, there's money all over the place that we don't realize that we're utilizing. Like if you go to the library, you're sending your kids to school, all that stuff costs money. So we don't see the value in it because we're not paying the full share of it. We're paying just a chunk. So I think that's probably those numbers that you're looking at. It's kind of including everything, like your medical, your dental, your
no. This is saying that this equates to an average monthly expense of around $9,000 to $10,500 a month.
I must be living in poverty then.
Right.
I'm sorry, but maybe in New York or Los Angeles, but that ain't happening in rural America. That ain't happening most everywhere else.
So.
It says average, but I don't know how that's even remotely possible.
Well, most people live in big congested cities where it costs more. So, per capita. I don't know. Lord. That still seems a little high, but yeah, I get your point. It's high, right? So even some of these prisons, they're making more than the average daily family of 4 for one prisoner in one cell.
Yeah. That was kind of the point I was getting at is it don't cost $300 a day to house a prisoner, but that's what they're getting.
Right. So we're talking about like all these money issues. We're talking about like I don't know. I'm not making that. Not that I need to put my business out, but hey, prisoners are doing pretty good. So I wonder if with what's going on right now, Trump's talking about keeping these tariffs going and increasing them and really like taking care of business behind the scenes of like, hey,
Hmm.
if it's an American cars made in America, American steel, American aluminum, and if you want to make it, you sure can with a fee, with the penalty behind it. So one of his proposals behind that is ultimately removing income tax for anybody who makes $200,000 or less. So then, Kyle, to your point, that would include that average person. You wouldn't have to pay any more income tax. It would just be all absorbed in the tariff process. So yeah, I know some of you guys may be thinking, yeah, but my toothpaste might go up to 25 cents. Well, my Barbie doll for my girl might go from $10 to $15. True, she doesn't need $37 either. But if you don't have to pay any more income tax, then who cares, right? You know what I mean? Like you can charge 50% more on everything. I don't care if I don't have to pay taxes. That's going to be a huge deal. So what do you guys think about these tariffs? Like how does it you think it will impact you or the average person?
One, I'll be honest with you, I like the idea of the tariffs.
Hmm,
I think that when we look at the history of income tax and how it was only supposed to be a temporary thing,
right.
and how we went from being the most wealthiest nation in the world through tariffs, then we all of a sudden, after I think it was a World War II or something like that, it was supposed to, help pay for the war. And then as we went along, it was supposed to be, declining and more money in our pocket. And unfortunately, what are we up to now? Like 25%, something like that we pay out in taxes?
It
Is it,
depends
or
on
is
your
it high?
bracket. It's anywhere
Right.
from 10 to
Or,
25.
yeah, somewhere in there. So I like it. I know a lot of people out there will be like, oh my gosh, now everything from China is going to get, they're going to make us pay for all that stuff and just make everything more. Now, what's really going to happen is I trust the process. I believe what's going to happen is a lot of manufacturing now will come back to the United States.
Hmm.
Where over the last, I would say the last 40 years, all of our manufacturing has been going the other way. And why? Because we were taxing our manufacturers
Hmm.
to the point that they had to go overseas to keep the business going. So to me, that's been part of the plan, unfortunately. Whether you like it or not, that was the plan a long time ago for us to have all of our corporations getting stuff coming out of China and all that. But what I love to see is the fact that what's going to happen, or what I believe is going to happen, is this: they're going to be like, okay, this doesn't make any sense from a money standpoint. Let's set up house in the United States, and a lot of automotive from the Japanese, from Toyota, Volvo. I mean, a lot of companies are. It's actually good business for them to put plants here in the United States,
Mhm.
make the cars here, and then sell them here,
Yeah, no
than
shipping.
having to do all that stuff. So yeah, I think overall, I think people. Will the initial process of it be like some rough water? Sure, but with progress never comes easy,
Hmm.
especially something like this. But I think in the long run, it could be very beneficial for the United States. It'd be very beneficial for us as U.S. citizens, from healthcare to schools to better roads to a better life in general. And guess what? If you get to keep more of your paycheck, listen, we live in a nation that loves to spend money. And guess what? Yeah, it's going to be like dollar bills, y'all. Yes, yeah. So you think Amazon Prime's getting is crazy right now? You just wait. Oh, I get it to keep all of it. Yeah, we're going to Disney twice this year, kids.
Right.
It's like
I
so. Anyway,
think
that's my opinion on it.
the people that are worried about it honestly just don't really understand how things work.
Hmm.
And I mean the people who are adamantly opposed to it. So hopefully this will help. So yes, cost of things are probably going to go up of the things that are coming from other countries, and
Right.
there is going to be that, kind of like Joe Trent said, there's going to be that transition period where products are going to start being made here, provide American jobs, that sort of thing, da 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 da,
Hmm.
until everything kind of balances out. So it will kind of lean a little bit that way for a little while, but you're going to have a lot more money. And the first thing it's going to do is it's going to allow people to stop and say, maybe I should be a little bit smarter with how I spend my money.
Hmm.
That's the first thing. The
We
second
hope.
thing, the second thing is it's going to be healthier because we have regulations here that they don't have in the manufacturing process.
Mm.
Um, Two, if you truly are concerned about people around the world, not just people here, this is going to cut out on a lot of slave labor and other stuff like that. But here's the biggest thing. Everybody's worried about, this somehow is going to make everybody somehow completely broke because everything that we're getting is from China. Is going to make everything more expensive and all that kind of good stuff. Here's the deal. China has to play ball.
Mm-hmm.
Period. They have to. And here's why. The United States consumes the majority of everything that they make by a lot.
Yep.
So if they were to not make a deal with the United States on making this work, it's been very one-sided for a long time. It's been for the benefit of China.
Mm-hmm.
Now we've gotten cheaper goods, but it's, as far as profit and all that stuff, that's been going to them. So it's been very one-sided. It's going to be a fair deal for the entirety of the American people. They have to work it out. And here's why. Because if they don't, what we have is mutual destruction. Plain and simple. It would be worse than a nuclear war. Why? Because nuclear is going to kill a lot of people very quickly. This, if they don't make a deal, is going to kill a lot of people very slowly because they're going to starve to death. You're going to have a lot of people in China that are not China, that don't have jobs anymore. They're not going to make what little minuscule money they're making right now to be able to support their families if they don't make a deal. People are going to be dropping like flies. They have to do something. I wouldn't even say it's. I did say that it was mutual self-destruction, but it wouldn't be. It would definitely be a harder hit for them.
Mm-hmm. Well, and the world is just so international now. We almost can't get away from it. And what this process is, and yeah, we could all go do the math. America has been the one footing the bill on a lot of the world's part, right? With the wars, with policing different areas, with, again, like I was saying, we are a consumer nation, right?
Mm-hmm.
We love to buy things, to acquire things, and to have things. So we buy all the stuff,
for
right?
no reason.
Yeah, exactly. Like, hey, how many pair of Jordans do you have? Oh, 16, and they're on a shelf, still in a box, never to be worn again. But I want all 16 of them. And China's like, well, we'll keep making them for $10 a shoe. You keep buying them for $200 a shoe. And money, right? It's kind of simple how that works. And we're losing that whole time while paying all these extra tariffs and taxes and stuff. They're charging it to us. And to see, Trump pulled up the chart the one time of like what nations are charging us tariffs. Some of the nations are 94%, 82%. Like, can you imagine? They're just like, we don't want your stuff. Like, because if you give us your stuff, we're not buying our stuff. So therefore, as a nation, we're losing money. And America's like, we don't care if we lose money. We just want more things. So I love the process of trying to just say, let's fix the overall problem with American. And it's a mentality thing. It's not so much that like we're dumb. It's just a mentality that we've been sold. You have to buy everything from Temu and Alibaba and all those other websites. All your cars are foreign. We say that now. Best cars are foreign. Nobody's out here buying a Ford. Everybody wants to get a Honda or a Toyota or something. It's like, man, these are better cars. Well, guess what? Just make them here, and then you bring the cost down, and you still get to have the car. It's simple. But one of the things that I think this does is it gets us back, like, and Joe was bringing this up earlier, it brings us back to like the American roots. When we started as a nation, we like did stuff. We made stuff. I'll just give you a couple names, and you can see exactly what I'm talking about. Edison, Ford, and the Wright brothers. There's stuff that was invented that changed history. I mean, maybe they had it in some other world, and we can talk about that in another sense. But for the modern world that we know of in our modern history books, light bulbs, and it wasn't Edison that invented it. He's the one who made it where you can use it better. But regardless, so we made the airplane, right? We made the cell phone. We made the car. We made the manufacturing process. We had the steel industry. We did so much stuff that changed the world. And then we were like, our trajectory was just through the roof. We were the like making these guns and tanks. Other countries were like, I don't know, steal it so we could try to copy it, because we were just winning at everything. Everything we did was gold stamp, right? Gold stamp of approval on everything American. Then all of a sudden we were like, yeah, but it costs 2 cents cheaper to make it somewhere else. So on a profit margin, 2 cents, if we multiply that by 50 million, oh, we can make an extra salary for the boss, right? We can give him a bonus at the end of the year. Well, while doing that, what do we invent now? What are we the main inventors of today? Nothing. Like I don't know.
Nothing.
Do we do
Absolutely
anything
nothing.
special? Are we unique in any way? We're just we have the new 85-inch TV versus the 65-inch TV. What changed? Nothing. Same technology, same chip, same screen. We didn't do anything cool.
Yeah.
I just miss the days of like reading our history book and saying, look how cool America was.
Right.
So now it's like,
America.
we're just
America.
doing what everybody else is doing. We're all kind of even. Not that that's a bad thing. I want the world to win too, but we're citizens of this country, and so I want my country to do good, and I want
Yeah.
my paycheck to actually mean something. When I go to the store, I'm not broke every 10 minutes.
Right.
Well, we'll get this. So we talk about money. We talk about how much we pay out. And so, just to give you an idea of how much I believe we've helped out China, it says in 2016, Country Garden unveiled a $100 billion project in Malaysia called Forest City. It was supposed to accommodate nearly 1 million people 8 years on. The complex is virtually empty. Forest City, a development in Malaysia, was. Oh, I'm sorry, it's just repeating the story. I don't know why it's doing that. So for 8 years on, it has almost nobody there. I've watched YouTube videos on this multiple times where literally people will go to the hotel there, in the entire city, there's nobody. I mean,
Yeah.
nobody. Now, let me repeat this again. This is 2016 when they unveiled it. $100 billion. Where do you think that $100 billion came from? I'm sure there was a lot of U.S. greenbacks on that to help
Right.
build
The printer.
that.
Yep.
So when we look at,
Yeah.
when Trump's talking, whether you like Trump or not, man, he's a businessman. So when he's talking about making America great again, when he's talking about bringing in some wealth back to us, Jonathan, you just said it. We are consumers. We consume like nobody else. We're just a bunch of fat kids over here consuming everything and don't really care. We never think about where that came from. We never think about anything other than, taking care of us.
Mhm.
And so when you look at 2016, $100 billion, and this is just one city. Matter of fact, I believe there's actually more than that one that's in over into China also.
Yeah.
But $100 billion, and I guarantee you, majority of that came from the U.S. Majority of that came from us buying. Let me tell you something. When you go to the store and you see the most stupid thing on the shelf and go, somebody. I mean, literally, I've done it before. Like, it's like somebody actually buys this. Pick it up and look at it, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Made in China. Look,
For
guys,
sure.
can you imagine? Can you imagine what the people in these factories are thinking about us as people in the United States? They're looking at these stupid things, going, "These dumb Americans are we are making this for them to buy and purchase.
Right.
They end up either in a yard sale or in a landfill at some point."
Yep.
Yep.
They extracted your dollar though.
So
It's
so two things regarding China. I got to bring this up. So that this is going to be affected with the whole tariff thing. At least the first one is. If I remember correctly, I believe that something like 80% of our pharmaceuticals come from China.
Yep.
So that whole area is going to take some kind of something's going to happen there. But something else I heard, I found out recently, and this is hilarious. So there's this, I don't know if you want to call it whistleblower or whatever, out of China that deals in exports and things like that, that is coming out and basically just blowing the lid off of the whole fashion industry and that sort of stuff. And it is hilarious to me. So I'm sure even you guys probably know somebody or have known somebody in the past that just has to have the designer handbags and the designer, that kind of stuff, right? Real bougie, got to have, I don't want that made in China stuff. I want the real Louis Vuitton or the real whatever Versace. Pick a name brand, right? My stuff's made in Italy. This is the real deal. This is the real tag, the real label. Yeah. So more than 80% of that stuff is made in China. They ship it to the manufacturers in Italy and France, and they finish the product by doing two things. They repackage it and put their label on it, and now it's considered made in France or made in Italy. So these handbags have on average like a 10,000%
Oh
markup in
boy.
price.
Oh yeah.
That's hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
The people who have to have that brand name, there you go. Congratulations.
You just hurt a lot of people's
You're an idiot.
feelings, Kyle. Just hurt a lot of people's feelings on the, or yeah.
Well, and it doesn't really matter what the item is. Any group of people that are in a free-ish, and I say free-ish on purpose, a free-ish country, they're going to find anything that they can do to find that's a commodity, that can be a status symbol, that can be a way for them to utilize their funds. Unfortunately, people have more money than what they know to spend with, so they're just going to find something, right? It's either art or a bag or car or shoes. Fill in the blank, right? You can go on a million vacations to 100 beaches and eat all you can eat buffets, but you have to find ways to distinguish yourself from somebody else. See, I'm better than you because fill in the blank, and this is how I can spend my money that you can't spend. And so, yes, Kyle, to your point, that stuff could be made in somebody's garage. I don't think it matters. It's the fact that somebody's determined this equals status. This is the value that gives it, so that way somebody else can't have it. So that way now I'm cooler than you because you can't get it. Even if it's literally just a penny, right? But I have the only, like, think about this stuff on eBay. Go on eBay and start searching in the most random stuff. And they're like, Pokemon card from 1996. You're like, $400,000. You know why? Because it's the only one. And it's scarcity and rarity. So then they purposely don't release stuff. They purposely only make 30 of them and then tell you it's the coolest thing in the world. And they're like, I've got one of the things that you don't have. I mean, what was those things they were making, those like NFTs or whatever, the non-fungible tokens, and they were just like random stuff.
Yeah.
And they were digital. It's not even, there's no,
Yeah.
you can't hold it, touch it, do anything.
There's no tangible anything to it.
Right.
Yeah. It's
throwing your money away.
It's imagination money. You're
Right.
spending money on imagination.
So that's kind of what your case there with the bags is. Okay, I've got my Walmart bag and you've got your, $1 million bag or whatever. And at the end of the day, they both hold stuff. And actually, mine will hold stuff better than yours because it'll actually get used because it was only $10. And I can buy so many of these bags that I will never run. I could buy 2 housefuls of bags that if I just replace them once a week forever, it'll cost less than your one. You know what I mean? It's just like sometimes I wonder where that mentality is at, other than it's just that status that that people need to buy stuff.
Oh, dude, you just reminded me of something. Like this fact just came from the backside of my brain, like
It
from
must have
way.
hurt.
Was it part of that 10% they're using?
Yes, yeah. It was
I
the
give him
original
5.
10%. It was the original 10.
The original 10.
Yeah. So, oh, this is so gross. Okay, so, and it's even more hilarious with women who have to have these several $1,000 purses or handbags, whatever you want to call them. Did y'all know that when scientists did tests to sample to see what the most gross things were in our everyday lives, and it don't matter what they tested, bathroom door handles, all kinds of stuff, the toothbrush in the bathroom, like y'all have heard about that probably, how there's particles and stuff on it, yeah. The most gross thing that was tested out of everything was the bottoms of women's purses.
Nice.
Yep. And I bet you there's a lot of women watching this right now that have got their purse sitting on the table or on the kitchen counter or something like that. And yep, it is
sitting in a lap in the car.
Yep, it is by far one of the most grotesque things that people use on a day-to-day basis.
Yep.
Yeah, and you know what else fills in there too? So it's funny that you said that because I remember these from way back, and they were saying some of the other things on that list. I know purses were the worst because you said it on, but it was men's belts, because they were saying if you go to the bathroom, whichever variety you have to go, the first or second, and you have to unengage the belt. And so you have to use your hands, and you have to re-engage after using the bathroom before you wash your hands, right? No one walks to the sink with their stuff all open. So they close their belt and put their situation back together with their nicely dirtied hands. then wash them, and everything that was dirty on your hands is now all over your belt. So they were saying men's belts and men's ties because they were like, no, whoever washes a tie. They were like, you get done with your
Never.
tie, you hang it back up. You know how many times you sneezed on it? People sneezed on you. All the just the times it's got touched and rubbed. So yeah, it's hilarious how clean we think we are until we realize how much we are not. But yeah, the purses was definitely got me. That was like, because yeah, go around your house and go look at where your mom or your girlfriend or your wife, or your coworker where they put their purse. It's just on everything. Just everywhere you go, just set it on everything.
Yeah.
Mixing pets with that, even better. Now you got parasites and bugs.
Yep.
Ladies, stop putting your purses on the bathroom floors. That's the biggest reason why they're so gross.
I was gonna say that
Use the hook.
There's a hook. I was gonna say there's a hook in the stall. Use it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh man. So
yeah, that's not going to work.
Good stuff, man. How'd we go from taros to the toilet paper? I don't know, man. But here we go.
Well, toilet paper you tear if you need it. So there you go.
There you go. Tear it. Yep.
Yeah. See.
Can you spare a square, my friend?
Just don't pass it under the stall. I'm good.
Yeah. Oh boy.
That sounds like an accident waiting to happen, right?
Speaking of accident, you just sparked my memory again. Hey man, I'm getting full use out of this 10%.
You might be up to 15%, Kyle. I'm gonna give you that, okay?
Pushing 11, I think. Dude, did y'all hear about? Okay, I know everybody's heard about the helicopter that flew into the plane, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, it's coming out now. Like this is really bad. So the lady, Rebecca Lobach was the pilot,
right?
And there's this presumptions or assumptions out there that this was one of those DEI hire type things, situations, whatever. I don't know. Regardless, she was kind of actively involved in the Biden administration, kind of like there with all those people. Okay. Turns out that it is
too bad it didn't turn out.
Yeah, I know, right? It is not only a probable thing, it is most likely the actual case. It is very much looking like this woman intentionally flew that Black Hawk helicopter into that plane.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, she was directly ordered by everyone, even her co-pilot, to maneuver away. Those helicopters operate very, very quickly. There was no sign of any kind of turning away whatsoever. The plane had the correct heading. Like everything is leaning towards this woman did this intentionally.
That's not a good look.
Crazy, yeah. And there were people from multiple countries. There was people in there from China. There's people in that plane from Russia. There was Olympians in the plane. Anyway, men, women, children.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, crazy.
Well, what did it say? What her motive may have been for doing that? Or
only way to know is you'd have to go ask her, and she's unavailable at the moment.
Well, I mean, some people leave a paper trail of information, so I imagine they're investigating all of that. So
I don't know of any kind of like letter left behind or anything like that. It just it's just looking like that. That's what it is based on everything. All the evidence that's piling up is just looking like this was very much an intentional thing.
Right.
So, I don't know. And the timing was like right after Donald Trump's election.
Oh yeah, that was like his first news article was like, "Oh, yeah, what are we going to do with this? We got to get a new FAA in. We got to get new hires in. Why don't we have enough people to staff these towers?" I mean, like that's not what you expect as your first couple days, first couple weeks in administration is, multiple plane crashes. I mean, like they were happening like over and over and over. And I was like, okay, hey, okay, seriously, like this is supposed to be the safest mode of transportation. What's actually going on? But yeah, I mean, the fact that this is military and civilian planes, those two like don't mix. They often use the same airports. They often are on the same chatter lines and stuff. But you never really hear about military accidents with civilian accidents. Like that was already
Right.
really strange to me anyway. A plane or a jet will go down during a military exercise or a training. I'm not saying that's okay, but that's generally isolated and it has to do like just on the military side, the DoD. But to see that it crossed over into the civilian world,
Right.
that's where I was like, that's new. That's different. I don't remember hearing this too much.
And we don't have any evidence whatsoever of any malfunction of any kind or
Right.
anything like that.
Yeah, they said, I mean, it was like a potentially, I don't know what the right word to use is, but it was a case of a person wanting to not be alive anymore, and that was the path that they chose.
Yep.
And so that was a part. It was a mission to do that, and then and again, it's all speculation because, like we said, we can't go back and do the questioning, but it would be curious to know of like anything else that come up because they're releasing new facts all the time, and they're
Right.
you would think, oh, it's going to get more, the picture's going to get more clear, but it really has just gotten more muddy and it's actually gotten really bad for her in that situation. You're like,
Yeah.
that nothing about this is looking like any redeemable facts at all.
Yeah. Yeah. There was no movement on the tail of that helicopter whatsoever. She was straight line it
Mhm.
Now
straight into.
let me ask you this, Kyle. Isn't there also some stories that came out about the fact that these helicopters can be controlled remotely? So, is there
Mhm.
anything you possibly think that maybe it wasn't her? It could have been actually that someone else was in the control of that and it made it happen.
I'm not going to say it's impossible. What I will say is this: 15 seconds prior to like and prior to that also, but 15 seconds prior to the helicopter flying into the plane, 15 seconds prior to that was a direct order from her co-pilot.
Mm-hmm.
She'd already had direct orders from other people at the tower and all this other stuff. She ignored all that. Direct order from her co-pilot telling her to turn away. She does not respond to that. She continues on and flies it directly into the plane.
Mm.
So you would think if it was controlled remotely, she'd say, "I'm trying, it's not turning," something, nothing.
Yep.
Hmm.
So it ain't looking good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and it's like other than the obvious motivations, it's just a sad story. I mean, how do you go on about that? Like obviously you put in systems and you put safety measures in place so it doesn't happen again. But I mean, can you imagine Trump's opinions of how this thing went down? He's like, I don't know what you have to do, but fix it tonight. You know what I mean? Like he was
Mm-hmm.
immediately on the phone calling people like, fix this now. This is not
Yeah.
acceptable. There's not enough rationale. And some of the details were coming out about flight altitudes, how like the altitudes weren't even correct, that they were flying way too high, and just a lot of stuff that didn't work out mentally
For the helicopter or for the plane?
for the helicopter. The plane was
Okay.
doing its normal approach like it would always
Correct.
do 900
Correct.
times a day. So
Yep. Yeah, I don't know, man. That just blows my mind. And how people can get to a place to do something like that. Like, I mean, if you want to unalive yourself, that's one thing. When you're going to unalive the crew that's in your
Mm-hmm.
helicopter with you, along with what we believe to be, 67 innocent people on a random airplane.
right.
Who knows if it was random at this point or if that was I don't know. It just kind of makes you wonder, like, was, I don't know, was she pushed to do this for a specific reason? It's hey, we got something over you, or we'll make sure your family's taken care of if you do the. I don't,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
it's just a little too many things to make you go, hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, and I
Way too
remember
many.
I remember one of the early articles was saying that, not that at all that's possible, and not that I even believe it, but it was literally just an attack on the new administration to say, hey, your first day in the office is make you look bad.
Right.
Now, why would you need to end yourself, to do that, to pull that off? But I mean, it was literally so soon after. You're like, I mean, the correlation is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Well, the
Oh, it's
bottom line
crazy,
with
man.
all that, it's just very sad.
Yeah.
It's very sad.
Pray for all the families for sure,
Hmm.
because they had nothing to do with that.
Well, speaking of dark and evil and planning behind the scenes,
Hmm.
how about this? Like, as if we didn't know that they were already bad enough. I just learned something new about Disney.
Wait, they're a family company. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's see if we
Tourists
can.
of driven snow. What are you talking about?
Yeah. Let's find out what family they're part of.
Oh boy.
So I believe I could be wrong on this, but I believe this is probably still the highest grossing Disney movie of all time. Do y'all remember what it was?
Toy Story. I have no idea.
Wait,
Pinocchio.
was that Disney?
No, I think it's Pixar or DreamWorks or something. I
Okay.
was just making stuff up.
Anyway, I don't. I guess it don't even matter. Well,
The
let's see.
new Star Wars. Now that they've been bought by
Highest
Disney.
grossing. Uh,
Well, if you go back to some of the original ones, you got like Mulan and Snow White, Cinderella, Little Mermaid.
all right. Well,
I don't know. I'm feeling the love tonight.
okay. So when it comes to animated, apparently the movie Inside Out has finally broke the record.
Yeah, it's because it's new.
But yeah,
Well, so it's about the mind of a girl too. So that's that's why it's called Inside Out. It's like, hey man.
well, one that held the title for a while and then it was replaced was The Lion King, and then the remake back in 2019 topped the charts again.
Really?
Still Inside Out too. Yep. Apparently, The Lion King, the remake back in 2019.
Like the CGI one?
Yeah, I get. I
I
don't
didn't
Yeah,
like
know.
that
that
one.
at
Any
Yeah,
attention to it? I don't
I
know.
never even took the time to watch that one. I hated it.
all. You didn't watch it, but
I
you
hate,
hated
no,
it.
I saw the I
Disney,
saw
bro. I don't watch
the
that.
I saw the CGI part, and I'm like, I'm not even wasting my time.
Yeah.
So even the things that we can think back on, when we were younger, and we think, oh man, that was such a cool, fun thing, and whatever. And maybe we don't want our kids watching it because we know they got all these subliminal
All that.
subliminal
Hey, you
messages.
might want to pick that 10% back up, son.
I know, right?
Don't drop it.
So they got these hidden messages in there.
Mm-hmm.
There's still some of the fun stuff that you might even consider doing with your children, right? Like singing a song, especially a happy song. I'm not going to sing it, but it starts with Hakuna,
Mm.
and it supposedly means there are no worries for the rest of your days, right?
That's what they said.
That's not what it means. So, apparently,
Apparently.
the influential languages used come out of, well, clearly Africa, and
Kenya.
it was a Swahili dialect or whatever.
Hmm.
The Hakuna, and I'm not even going to finish it. I'm not even going to say it out loud. Y'all know exactly what I'm talking about, right?
Yes.
That phrase where they claim that it means no worries for the rest of your days. Nope, that is not what it means.
Okay, fill me in.
Apparently, in Swahili, that means, I told you this was evil. It means there is no father.
Oh, even better.
Now, can you imagine how many people have been singing There Is No Father?
Oh yeah.
That's evil multiplied right there, bro.
Yeah.
So do you think
Yeah.
it's referring like to God, or you're like a paternal figure?
Well, if I'm not mistaken, I think that this happened right after the father, was.
Mufasa.
Yeah. But regardless, you're being told that it means no worries for the rest of your day. And now we have all of these children all over the place singing "There Is No Father."
For the rest of your days.
Whether
Dead.
whether it's somehow subliminally is, I've got to stop using that word, implanting it into their brains or something. I don't know,
Hmm.
but there's a lot less fathers active in their children's lives.
Yep.
You know, is that circumstantial or is that psychological?
Well, it's not even that. I mean, I think it's just like even the mentality behind it. Because if you're defining it, you're saying, okay, there is no more fathers or whatever, and then you're telling me what it
Oh no,
means is,
there is no more father, or
oh,
there is no father is the statement. There
okay,
is
so there
no
is
father.
no
Yep.
father. So then if you do walk that out to its full thought process, and you're like, okay, if there is no father, that means no worries. So you're like, hey, we're free to do whatever we want. We're not burdened by a paternal figure or a heavenly father figure. We are now free. We now have the license to do whatever we want, because guess what? It means no worries. Guess what? He's out the picture. I can be my own man and eat grubs and dance around with a warthog and and a meerkat. I don't that's crazy, Kyle. I've never heard that, never considered it. It definitely puts a new lens on the whole movie that we watched 100 times growing up.
Doesn't that sound a lot like "Do as Thou Wilt"?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit.
Like I said, even if
That's
it is just your earthly dad, I mean that's still already too
still bad.
much.
That's still
Yeah,
bad. Yeah. You say, hey, no
Yeah,
father? Don't worry about it. Yeah.
and to have a whole sing
Well,
song about it that lasts 2.5
well, you
minutes.
think about it. If you were to sing the song as you just said, there is no father for the rest of your days. It's a problem-free philosophy. Do, 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 do. Yep. So if you were, I guess, to go in there and put the actual word in there, it was like, wait, whoa, whoa. Yeah, most people would be like, wait a minute, hold on, something
something
ain't
ain't
right.
right.
But hey, but think about this. Think about all the Disney movies that has no fathers, or the
Hmm.
fathers tragically taken away.
Right,
Uh-huh.
So that's a running theme.
right.
Yeah, you go with Tarzan. Tarzan, both parents would get killed by a cheetah, and all the other movies that are out there where the father's either absent because he's useless or because he's been killed off. And it's like, yeah, but everybody has a happy life and all this stuff, and just no big deal that we have no father figure in the picture. So yeah, that seems to be a running theme of not just Disney but all of them. Nickelodeon, you name all of the big players out there. They always seem to have a missing parent
Yeah.
somewhere
Hmm.
in there, and it's okay. I mean, look at Bambi, for Pete's sake. His mom gets taken out at the beginning of the story. He ain't got
Right.
to follow. He's out. His dad's out there doing whatever, and mom gets shot, and then he's on his own.
He's out
Hakuna
there
Matata.
deering around and
It's like
Yeah.
a deer in the headlights out there.
So yeah, that seems to be the running theme for a lot of, unfortunately, for children's
Mhm.
Yeah.
animation or children's movies.
It's like they're
So,
normalizing it, embedding it in your mind for some
yes. Oh
evil
yeah.
reason.
Well, and here's
Yeah.
another one. All the time when you look at some of these Disney movies, what character are they pushing? A princess or a prince? You rarely see them talk about the king and the queen, right? They're the guys that are actually in charge. It's like, no, no, no. It's just the princesses, and it's the people that have to go off into the woods and they fall, and then they are on their own forever, and blah 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 blah. And you're like, well, what about the actual family? What about the everybody else? Like, how do we just continue to have these solo artists, that are making their own way in life and magic? I don't know. I couldn't do that at that
Hmm.
age, but somehow these Disney characters got birds dressing them and all kind of cool stuff.
Right?
Yeah.
You know how much I would have liked to have been able to have like Mickey powers to have brooms and stuff clean up my room for me growing up? That would be awesome, bro. Don't think
Yep.
I didn't try.
Yeah.
Clothes,
Yes.
fold yourselves,
Oh boy. Well, speaking of that cartoon got pretty. You talking about dark earlier? That's a very dark
Yeah.
animated cartoon from a long
Right.
time. I mean, as a child watching, I'm going, something ain't right, man. It's like this is bad feelings all over. So yeah, I mean, unfortunately, it's the programming that's been given to all of us since we were children, since our parents were kids. I mean, Disney's
Hmm.
been around a
Yep.
long time.
Yep.
Yep.
And so it seems to be the norm to remove the parental figures out of the children's lives, and everything's a party now, everything's gonna be fine, and yada yada. And it's like, yeah. So
So this song, so to get to what it's really saying, there is no father. That's clearly not true, right? Like somehow somebody was there to bring all us into the world,
Right.
but so just to say what it says, so there is no father. Well, I have somebody who's sitting on his throne right now who would beg to differ.